Good morning, my friends. JT DeBolt is with you today for the Elite Marketing Pro Daily Dose of Awesome, your 15 minutes of inspiration, education, and motivation to help you get your day started off right. And I say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time it is for you, no matter where you might be tuning in from on the Big Blue Marble. Thank you for joining us here each and every single Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific, where we're going to come out here with a brand new message each and every single day. And today's a powerful day. Today is Thursday. I love Thursdays. I don't know why. I love pretty much every day of the week. But today I felt absolutely inspired to tell you a story and give you a lesson, really one specific strategy that you need to conquer the haters in life. Before I jump into it, I just want to know who's out there. Let me know where you are tuning in from on the Big Blue Marble. Give me a shout out. Say hello. Hey, Jan, good to see you as always. Jill, Melinda saying hello. Luke, good to see you, my friend. Carrie, Sally just joined us. And listen, you know what it's like. You're out there, you're doing your thing, you're working hard, you're passionate about what you believe in, and then there's that person who just seems to be that nagging naysayer, that hater, as they say. And I'm curious from folks out there if you have ever had haters. If you've got a hater in your life now, maybe you've experienced it before, give me a yes. If you've never experienced it before, you don't have any haters, you can say no, that's fine. I'm just kind of I want to take the temperature of the room here and get a sense for how many people have experienced the idea of people being a hater in their life. Okay, Hannah says yes, Jill says yes. Michelle, hey, from Denmark, sweet. Luke saying yes, Jan definitely says yes. Okay, good. Now, I say good because I'm going to talk to you about what that actually means. Before we do that, I want to break down an important philosophy. And for those of you that followed me long enough, you may have heard me share this with you before. You've heard the term that the eyes are the window to the soul. Well, I actually believe that the words the person uses is the window to their soul. I can tell a lot about the way a person is wired, their psychology, even their physiology, based on the words that they use. And let me explain. So we can all agree or disagree that thoughts and beliefs are directly related. In fact, from my perspective, beliefs are really where it all begins. Our beliefs drive our thoughts. And I'll give you an example. So if we believe that making money is hard, if that's a belief system that we have, then we're going to think thoughts anytime something comes up like, hey, I've got a new ad campaign I'm putting together. Our thoughts might be, man, I hope this works, or this is going to be difficult. Our thoughts are actually driven by our beliefs. And I know that some people actually think it's the reverse. And if you believe that your thoughts actually drive your beliefs, that's fine. I'm not here to contest that. But from where I'm coming from, the perspective that I want to deliver to you today, I want you to know that I believe that it's your beliefs that drive your thoughts. Okay, so if you believe a certain thing, if you believe that being fit and healthy is hard, then your thoughts are, you know what, it's not worth going to the gym, so I'm just going to put it off. Okay, so your beliefs drive your thoughts. Now, what's interesting is your thoughts actually drive your words. And that's probably pretty simple to realize. Your thoughts, if you think something's hard, then you're going to use words like, this sucks, or it's not for me, or someday when my ship comes in, so on and so forth. And on the converse, if you think to yourself, hey, man, success is possible. If your belief is, I believe success, I believe anything is possible, then your thoughts are, I got this, right? And you start to say words like, I got this. That's why I always say, I can tell a lot about the way a person thinks. I can realize a lot about their values. I can kind of feel who they are at the DNA level based on the words they use, especially about themselves. You can tell a lot about a person by the way they speak about themselves. And I'm not talking about judgment here. I'm talking about just getting a vibe of who they are. So if our thoughts are the byproduct of our belief, or our beliefs rather, and our words are the byproduct of our thoughts, then it goes without saying that words really do have power. Now, here's the key, and I want you to pay close attention to this. Words have power, but only the power we assign to it. Now, if you agree that words have power, I want you to dial a 1 into the chat box. If you agree with me that words have power, they're a very powerful part of our life. And here's where I'm coming from, at least on this, and I hope this makes some sense to you. One of the most hypnotic mediums on the planet is television, right? The reason for this is TV has a tendency to put us into an alpha state. So our mind is a lot more relaxed. We're a lot more open to a message. This is one reason why here in Elite Marketing Pro, we talk about the power of doing videos. And if you can put together a great video with great content and something that actually helps people, you can move them faster toward getting the results they want because they're in a lot more receptive mode. Now, the words you use can also be powerful, even if it's listened to on an audiobook or a podcast or something that's not visual. So understand this, that the words we use, whether they're delivered via video or delivered via audio, are a very powerful medium for delivering an idea, for delivering a belief, to changing the way people think and even the way they act. So if our beliefs drive our thoughts and our thoughts drive our words, what do our words drive? Well, our words actually drive our actions. And as you can pretty well tell, our actions are what create the results, and the results reinforce the belief. So it's one big circle, the circle of performance, as I like to call it, the cycle of performance. So with that in mind, let's talk about the power of words. I will tell you this. The power you assign certain words are the power that you either give away, you surrender, or the power you get back. So when we hear the word hate is a very emotionally charged word. So be very careful when you assign the term hater to a person who disagrees with you. And I'll tell you why that's important in just a moment. There are certain words that people allow themselves to get totally wound up in an inappropriate way. In fact, in somewhat a comical way. I'll tell you a story. So I was speaking at a conference a few years ago, and this conference was a private, kind of a high-end mastermind or a high-end event. You had to pay a lot of money to get there, several $1,000s just to get in the door. And the course of the thing was about 3 or 4 days long. I can't remember exactly how many days there were, but there were lots of speakers. And there was a guy that came up on stage, and he was just short of being a billionaire. He was on the preface of it. I think he had, he's like $850 million net worth. So he was about to cross over into the billionaire status. And his thing was, he had flown over from the Middle East, and he was going to deliver his wisdom on how he did it and how the people in the room could do this. And everybody in the room is on pins and needles, man. They're on the edge of their seat. They can't wait, and they're taking notes, and they're getting ready for this guy. And he comes up on stage, and like in the first maybe 15 or 20 seconds, drops an F-bomb, right? And from there on out, it was game on. I mean, he used more profanity than even I use, and I was in the U.S. Navy, right? The sailors are known for what we call sailor mouth. Well, guess what? This dude came out there and delivered amazing pearls of wisdom. At the end of his speech, in fact, even before it was over, I was standing in the back of the room, and a guy comes up to me, and he knew me, and he said, "I can't listen to this guy anymore." I said, "Well, what do you mean you can't listen to him?" He's like, "His profanity is just, it's so offensive to me." And I went, "Really? So let me ask you this. What have you learned from him? I mean, are you getting any good content?" He goes, No, his content's awesome. And I think there's some stuff in there that could help me, but I got to walk out of the room. I can't listen to him anymore. Simply because he was dropping 4-letter words. Now, this is a guy who desperately he told me the day before, "I need to make money. I need to make my business grow. If this doesn't work, blah, blah, blah." He starts giving me all this emotionally charged language about how he's not going to be able to make it. Interestingly enough, he's the first guy that walks out of the room the minute this guy starts dropping F-bombs. This is my point. My point is this. If we surrender our power to words, then we are no different than any victim of any kind of circumstance, right? This guy decided to stay stuck. It was easier for him to stay stuck by being offended by a 4-letter word than listening to the message that was being delivered. If you've ever experienced this before or seen this before, you know what I'm talking about, where somebody will absolutely stay trapped simply because they have a hardcore belief. It's against their morals, their ethics, their religion, because it's a profane word, right? Not because what he's saying was profane, meaning the concepts were beautiful. What he was talking about was the pathway to riches and wealth. It wasn't that he was telling people go out and kill people or, commit genocide or do something that's heinous or immoral. He was talking about things that work. It just so happened that he uses a lot of profanity. My point is this, is that if we allow ourselves to get charged about the way things people say or how they say it, then we've already given ourselves one leg down. It's like walking around with one hand tied behind your back. So this is another reason why the word hater is very important. You got to pay close attention. Typically speaking, when we have haters in our lives, it's because they disagree with something we think, do, believe, or say. Now, when that comes to play, we got to ask ourselves, what does this mean? I personally believe it's a great thing if you've got haters, quote unquote haters. If you've got people that disagree with you, you should be patting yourself on the back. You should be quite happy. You should be quite excited about this. Here's the question I'm going to ask you. Do you get excited, or do you at least find some, I don't want to say joy, but at least some satisfaction in the fact that there are people that might come off as haters about what you do, think, believe, and act, or even say? If the answer to that is yes, give me a 2 in the chat box. I see some, hey, what's up, Carolyn from Utah? Good to see you. Jan says, working on great videos thanks to the video genius of Kate McShay. Who does not agree with that? I think Kate McShay is an awesome genius. And by the way, Jan, I'm going to say this. If you're doing it right, if you follow what Kate says, you're probably going to get some haters. And I'll tell you why. Here's the reason that haters show up. Haters show up for several reasons, but the core reason is they personally have an insecurity. That's it. That's the core of it. There's something about themselves that they don't like seeing in you. Maybe it's your hustle. Maybe it's your grind, your grit, like we were talking about yesterday. Maybe you have the guts to come out where they don't. Maybe you finally got past your excuses. To me, one of the most damaging words people can use is the word can't. In fact, it's the only word in this household that I don't allow my children to say. I've got a 9-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. And if either one of them ever come in and drop a 4-letter word, and they've dropped the F-bomb before, I don't freak. Neither does my wife. We really don't worry about it. But the minute they come in and start saying they can't do something or start filling the room with their excuses, that's when we come to a dead stop. That's when we have the talk about language. That's foul language to me. When you start using the word can't or start talking about all the ways that you won't get stuff done, making excuses, right? So when a hater comes up, they typically live from that place. They live in a place of can't. They live in a place of excuses. They live in a place of fear, worry, doubt. They live in a place of limited possibilities. But when they see you doing your thing, when they see you charging forth with your vision, your business, your mission, when they see you connected to your values, that can be very frightening for them. And of course, they're going to lash out. Years ago, I had a guy that went on a website and bashed me simply because I was hanging out with the right kind of people. He didn't like the 2 people that I was doing business with, so he decided to drag me down into the thing. And here's what I did. I ignored him. Didn't care. I reached out to him at first. I'm like, hey, bro, would you mind taking my name off of that post that you had about the thing you don't like, the 2 people you don't like, since I have really nothing to do with your personal hatred? Would you mind taking my name off? And he didn't. He was a total jerk about it, and that's fine. Guess what I did? 0. I got back to work. Because here's the thing. Just like the word hate is an emotionally powered word and our emotionally charged word, the term hater can be as well. One of the most important things you can do if you have haters is to ignore them. The other thing that I want you to do with your haters is to appreciate them. I'm not losing my mind here. I'm telling you straight up. If you've got haters, there's a couple of things going on and they're all great. Number one, you're doing something right. You're doing something that has triggered somebody somewhere. And that person may or may not need your message. They may or may not need what you're saying, but it's definitely going to serve other people. If you've got haters, then you're doing something right. If you're pleasing everybody, then there's a problem. I saw a quote just yesterday that to me was so awesome. And the quote was, if you're pleasing everybody, you're lying to somebody. Let that sink in. That to me was pretty exciting, because the way I see it is this: you can't help but have haters if you're out there doing something important. If you're on your mission, if you're kicking ass, if you are completely intense and invested in what you're doing, intensely invested in your mission, in your vision, your mission, and your purpose, then guess what? You are going to ruffle feathers. Darren Hardy, the former editor of Success Magazine, even says, piss more people off. That's one of his mantras. I personally believe it. I think you should piss people off. And I've done it in my own career, right? In my messaging, when I talk about my disdain for the law of attraction, that pisses a lot of the woo-woos off. I think it's a total load of crap. When I talk about my disdain for goal setting and SMART goals and all that stuff, it pisses people off. In my industry, the personal growth industry, they're like, hey, dude, why don't you toe the line? And my answer is no. You're going to have to go against me, because I believe in my values, my vision, my mission, and my purpose, and that is to help people actually get results as opposed to keeping them stuck, which is what you are doing with this stuff that you've been shilling forever. My point is this: if you believe in what you do, you are going to get haters. It's going to happen. But here's the real question I want to ask you. Are you a hater yourself? It's a very interesting question. Now, most people are never going to identify as a hater. They're not going to say, yeah, I see myself as a hater. But here's the question. Do you ever look around, maybe even in this industry, and you see certain people, or you see certain beliefs or certain actions or certain, sort of trends, and say to yourself, that is not for me? If that's the case, give me a 3 in the chat box. If you look around and you see something, you're like, no way, man. That's not for me. That person is off their rocker. What a jerk. What a creep. What a bozo. Do you ever see that stuff and think to yourself, absolutely not for me? If that's your case, just dial a 3 into the chat box. I'm going to give you a real quick strategy, something that I use to get past that. The reason I'm bringing this up is that we are always on the path to looking for contrast, okay? If somebody comes up to you and they think differently than you, then I want you to embrace that. The worst thing we can do, you've probably heard the term surround yourself with like-minded people, and I get it. I like-minded people, but they don't challenge me as much as the person who disagrees with me, a person who sees a different way. It causes me to step outside of my comfort zone of thinking I've got it all figured out, right? It keeps me out of my ego and thinking I'm right. Now what I've got is an intelligent person, hopefully, that has articulated themselves in a way that challenges the way I think. Now, does it mean that I have to agree with them? No. Does it mean that you have to buy into their philosophy or their dogma or whatever it is? Not necessarily. What it means, though, is that you want to look at it and ask yourself, do they have a point? Maybe they can teach you something. Maybe the way they look at it, if they're the hater and they're calling you out on something, maybe it's the example of the king not wearing their clothes, or the queen in the case, depending on your gender. You've heard the story about the king who didn't have any clothes on, right? They made up this, they got the king all naked and said, ooh, we're dressing you in this most beautiful garment. Isn't it look awesome? And he couldn't see it, but he didn't want to look like a fool. His ego was too big. So he's like, yeah, it looks pretty awesome. And then he walked out, even though all his handlers, even though his whole staff could see clearly that he was naked, but they didn't want to be the person that said no to the king. He had a bunch of yes men and women around him. He walked out into the public square completely naked, and everybody laughed at him. Well, guess what? You don't want to be that way as a leader. You don't want to be that as an entrepreneur. That's why I'm telling you, it is okay to get the words occasionally from the haters. But if you allow their hate and disdain or their disagreement to bring you down, to make you question your mission, that's where it can be damaging. So, on one side, you don't want to surround yourself with yes people. And on the other side, you don't want to allow yourself to get wrapped up in the drama and the negativity. So how do we do it? A person came up to me fairly recently. In fact, it's happened quite a bit. And they're like, what do you think of so-and-so? And this is a very well-known information marketer, internet marketer, somebody you've probably seen around, showing their wealth, showing their money, talking about it nonstop. They're absolutely obnoxious. I mean, it's just one of those messages that for me doesn't work. And so here's my standard operating answer to anything that shows up like that. It's not my cup of tea. Now, that's not me diverting. That's not me avoiding. That's not me trying to take the easy way out. It's the simple truth. If I see somebody or something that isn't working for me, I'm like, it's not my cup of tea. Now, did I make them wrong? Absolutely not. Maybe for some people that works. Maybe that person represents the hero that inspired them to get them off the couch, to get them moving, to change their lives. It's possible. But for me, I think it's silly. I think it's dorky. I think it's ridiculous. Or in some cases, I might think the person is completely slimy. But rather than going down the path of being a hater and bashing that person, I just simply say, it's not my cup of tea, or they're not my cup of tea. Because at the end of the day, it's not the person, it's the idea. At the end of the day, it's not who they are, it's their philosophy. If anybody ever rejects you, remember that. If somebody tells you no, if somebody tells you to go to hell, if somebody tells you that you're crazy, you're ridiculous, they tell you that it's never going to work, it's not you, it's them. And really, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting the idea. Now, sometimes they're confused. Sometimes they need more information. So the rejection may be, you know what? No, I don't think so. It's a nice rejection. Maybe that just means that you need to do a better job of clarifying to them or educating them or showing them the better way. The point to it is this, is that you really don't have haters in the world. But if you do, I mean, if you've got those people that are just like telling you how crappy you are, how screwed up you are, how you are going down the path to ruin, pat yourself a little bit on the back. Give yourself a little bit of credit for being that person that finally stood up for something that other people think is crazy, ludicrous, scary, frightening, or ridiculous. Chances are very good that you're pointed down a very powerful path and you are leading other people to greatness as well. If those people hate on you, remember this, you are not their cup of tea. And oh, by the way, if you start seeing people that you disagree with, if it's me, just simply say, it's not my cup of tea. This keeps you out of the negative, keeps you in the positive, and not even the positive, but the powerful, keeps you in your personal power and allows you to see the value in everything, even the people who disagree with you. Hope that helps you out, my friends. Realize this, that having haters is a good thing. It's probably an indication that you're on the right path. If you ever find yourself becoming a hater, ask yourself the question, do I really want to go down this path, or do I just disagree with the philosophy? It's nothing personal against the person. It's just that you disagree with the way they do things, what they're saying, or what they believe. And that is part of being a human being, a critically thinking human being. And that's why I always say, it's not my cup of tea. With that said, my friends, this wraps up today's episode of the Daily Dose of Awesome. If you got something from this, if it landed for you, if it rattled you, if you feel like, hey, man, I really needed to hear this, then feel free to share this. In fact, I encourage you, I challenge you to share this with people out there that you think would benefit from the message as well. Invite them to come here each and every single Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And get yourself over to EliteMarketingPro.com. Check out what we're doing. You can access our free 10-day boot camp, which is going to help you build your business online. And guess what? That leverage is going to help you do more, be more, and enjoy more. And isn't that what life's really all about? All right, my friends, until tomorrow, we'll see you on another episode. And remember, no matter what course you fly in life, fly high, fly fast, and fly far. We'll talk to you soon.